Okay, we next have pandemic preparedness. In addition to ending the emergency phase of the pandemic, many of the Biden administration's actions to respond to the COVID pandemic will help the United States better respond to pandemics in the future. These actions include replenishing the Strategic National Stockpile, SNS. Since 2020, the SNS has successfully acquired 1.5 billion gloves, 1.1 billion masks, and 286 million gowns to replenish its inventory of personal protective equipment. The SNS has also distributed more than 27,000 tons of medicines, equipment, and supplies to support the country's public health and healthcare needs. Expanding a national wastewater surveillance system that routinely reports from over 1,500 sites covering over 150 million Americans, and scaling up genomic sequencing to more quickly identify and understand new pathogens and variants. Investing $7.4 billion from the American Rescue Plan to recruit and hire public health workers to respond to the pandemic and prepare for future public health challenges. Investing over $18 billion since 2021 to bolster domestic manufacturing capacity and capabilities for medical products. Creating a Public Health AmeriCorps and expanding Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Epidemic Intelligence Service, the renowned program that equips workers to identify and contain public health outbreaks. Standing up the Office of Pandemic Preparedness and Response, a permanent office in the Executive Office of the President charged with coordinating the federal government's domestic response to public health threats. Launching the 2024 U.S. Global Health Security Strategy to articulate a comprehensive approach to strengthening global health security and to ensure the world is better prepared to prevent and respond to health emergencies. More than doubling U.S. global health security partnerships, working directly with more than 50 countries to prevent, detect, and control outbreaks. Advancing capabilities in RNA vaccine technologies. Multiple companies are partnering with the Department of Health and Human Services to develop RNA vaccines so that the government can effectively respond to pandemic influenza and other threats should they emerge. Next, securing our border. From his first day in office, President Biden called on Congress to secure the border and address the country's broken immigration system. Over 4 years, while congressional Republicans failed to act, President Biden and Vice President Harris took action, including by deploying the most agents and officers ever to secure the southern border, seizing record levels of illicit fentanyl at ports of entry, expanding and creating lawful pathways for those seeking to come to the United States, bringing together world leaders under the LA Declaration to jointly address irregular migration, and implementing new policies and procedures to make America's immigration system more fair and more just. On day one, President Biden delivered a comprehensive immigration reform package to Congress. It included historic investments in border technology and security, expanded lawful pathways for those seeking to come to the United States, a process for dreamers and farm workers to seek legal permanent residence in the United States. In early 2024, the President reached an historic bipartisan agreement with Senate Democrats and Republicans to deliver the most consequential reforms to America's immigration laws in decades. This agreement would have added thousands of critical border and immigration personnel, invested in cutting-edge technology to detect and intercept illegal fentanyl, delivered sweeping reforms to the asylum system, provided emergency authority for the President to shut down the border when the system becomes overwhelmed. Despite a bipartisan deal on this border package, congressional Republicans twice voted against the toughest and fairest set of immigration reforms in decades. executive action to secure the border. Given continued congressional inaction, the Biden-Harris administration took additional executive action to secure the border. President Biden issued a proclamation on securing the border under Immigration and Nationality Act, Sections 212F and 215A, suspending the entry of non-citizens who cross the southern border into the United States unlawfully. This proclamation was accompanied by a rule from the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security restricting these non-citizens' eligibility for asylum. These actions, which are in effect when migration levels are high, were designed to make it easier for immigration officers to quickly remove individuals who do not have a legal basis to remain in the United States. The new procedures include humanitarian exceptions to protect those who are truly in need of protection, including unaccompanied children and victims of trafficking. Since President Biden announced these executive actions, illegal border crossings dropped by over 60% and reached the lowest point since July 2020, well before Biden took office. The Biden-Harris administration's additional key actions to secure the border were these: published a rule to ensure that migrants who pose a public safety or national security risk are removed as quickly in the process as possible, rather than remain in prolonged, costly detention systems for migrants who attempted to cross the border unlawfully. Launched a recent arrivals docket to more quickly resolve cases in the immigration court system, helping to reduce a backlog of immigration cases. Added prosecutors and support staff to increase immigration-related prosecutions in crucial border region U.S. attorneys' offices. Dismantled smuggling networks through the creation and significant expansion of the FBI's Joint Task Force Alpha, which led to over 300 domestic and international arrests, over 240 convictions in the U.S., and the first ever extraditions from Guatemala to the United States on human smuggling, resulting in death charges. Imposed visa restrictions on executives of transportation companies who profit from smuggling migrants by sea, and imposed visa restrictions on hundreds of individuals for selling transit visas to migrants who ultimately make their way to the southern border. Operated more repatriation flights per week than ever before, enabling the Department of Homeland Security to repatriate more people in fiscal year 2024 than any year since fiscal year 2010. Ensured that fentanyl was not pouring into the country by seizing more fentanyl at ports of entry in 2 years than the past 5 years combined, and added 40 drug detection machines across ports of entry to disrupt fentanyl smuggling. Executive action to improve the immigration system. The Biden-Harris administration also took key steps to make America's immigration system more fair and more just. Preserved and fortified Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA, by codifying the 2012 policy in DHS regulations, and vigorously defended it against court challenges. Took action to ensure that individuals, including DACA recipients and other dreamers who have earned degrees at United States institutions of higher education and who have an offer of employment from a U.S. employer in a field related to their degree, can quickly receive work visas. Rebuilt, strengthened, and modernized the U.S. refugee admissions program, successfully resettling more than 100,000 refugees in the United States in 2024, including a new record for refugees from the Western Hemisphere. Established new lawful pathways for those from countries suffering humanitarian crises. Extended, designated, or redesignated temporary protected status and deferred enforced departure for numerous populations, protecting hundreds and thousands of individuals from being returned to dangerous conditions in their countries of origin. Significantly significantly enhanced U.S. companies' ability to fill job vacancies in critical fields and in seasonal industries by publishing rules that modernized and strengthened the integrity of the H-1B program for high-skilled workers and the H-2A agricultural workers and H-2B non-agricultural workers programs. Next, we have education. When President Biden took office, less than half of the K-12 students were going to school in person. Over the past 4 years, the Biden-Harris administration focused on improving academic achievement, increasing student attendance and engagement, and building communities where all students feel they can belong and thrive. Investments in schools, teachers, and students. Through the American Rescue Plan, the Biden-Harris administration secured $130 billion for America's K-12 schools, the single largest federal investment in K-12 education in history, to help schools safely reopen and address the impact of COVID on students' academic, mental, and physical health and other needs. The administration also secured a $2 billion increase in Title I funding to school districts to help improve education opportunities and outcomes for students from low-income backgrounds, as well as an historic $1.4 billion increase in Individuals with Disabilities Education Act funds to help states support instruction and services for 7.4 million students with disabilities. Similarly, the administration made record investments in America's teachers, increasing investments by more than $100 million across several programs to support recruiting, preparing, developing, and retraining teachers and diversifying the educator workforce. Federal investments helped create more than 643,000 education jobs. The administration made similar investments in higher education, including a record of over $19 billion for historically black colleges and universities, and nearly $16 billion for Hispanic-serving institutions. The Biden administration provided over $5 billion for American colleges, universities, nonprofit organizations, and community organizations to increase college access and success for students from low-income backgrounds, first-generation students, and students with disabilities. Investments in school safety and mental health. To help make our schools safer and meet the mental health and other needs of our students, the administration secured $1 billion through the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act to train and hire 16,000 additional mental health professionals to serve America's schools. To further help meet the needs of students and improve academic and other, the administration increased investments in full-service community schools fivefold, including providing $253 million to create over 2,000 new full-service community schools that provide critical support to more than 1 million students to meet their physical, mental, health, academic, and other needs. Reducing the cost of college and student debt. From day one, President Biden set out to fix the student loan system and make sure that higher education is a pathway to the middle class, not a barrier to opportunity. The Biden-Harris administration took historic steps to reduce the burden of student debt, canceling more student debt than any president in history, and delivering life-changing relief to students and families. The Biden-Harris administration approved student debt cancellation for over 5 million Americans, totaling over $180 billion in debt relief through various actions. These include making significant improvements to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program so that over 1 million teachers, firefighters, law enforcement officials, nurses, service members, and other public service workers received the student loan relief they are entitled to under the law. Before President Biden took office, only 7,000 public servants had ever received forgiveness under this program. Fixing administrative errors in the income-driven repayment programs and delivering relief to hundreds of thousands of borrowers who had been in repayment for decades. Approving student debt relief for millions of borrowers who whose schools suddenly closed or who were defrauded by an institution. Launching the SAVE plan, the most affordable repayment plan ever. Under the SAVE plan, monthly payments are based on a borrower's income and family size, not their loan balance. The SAVE plan ensured that if borrowers were making their monthly payments, their balances cannot grow because of interest. Prior to lawsuits to attempt to halt these efforts, 8 million borrowers enrolled in the SAVE plan and 4.5 million borrowers secured a zero monthly payment. Overseeing the largest increase to the maximum Pell Grant awards in a decade to help put higher education in reach for more Americans, bringing the maximum award to $7,395 and extending its reach to 1.2 million more students in the 2024 to 2025 academic year. Next video will be expanding high-quality career pathways and workforce development programs.